The 39-year-old quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, who was scheduled to have a $41 million cap hit. They ended up bringing him back. They created more cap space in so doing. The next order, they extended their head coach, Mike Tomlin, Super Bowl winner. He's never had a losing season in 14 years. They extended him through 2024. And then after finishing dead last in rushing last year, they addressed the backfield by taking Alabama's Najee Harris. In the first round, he had over 1,400 rushing yards last year. The kid is an absolute stud. So they did all of that in the offseason. So why is it that Mike Clay, in his piece on all of the team's offseason moves, voted the Steelers as the least improved? You see, they're 32nd. A reminder, there are only 32 teams in the National Football League. They lost nearly their entire starting offensive line. They lost their edge rusher, Bud Dupree. And so there's been so much conversation about what it is the Steelers are or aren't. Marcus Spears, that would suggest that's one vote for they're not going to be any better. Are they the 11-0 team they started out last year, or are they the team that finished with a whimper and not a bang?
Gee, I don't believe they're either one. I believe they're somewhere in the middle of that. And the problem is we have the Steelers as a whole in totality a bad football team. That wasn't the case last year. We know the offensive line was the issue. This team won 12 games last year. I'm not going crazy. At the end of the year, they tailed off because people figured out that they couldn't run the football, and they began to just sit on all of these little short passes. Now, here's the issue for me. If Pittsburgh comes out and they're doing something similar to that, it's going to tell me that you have put your cap on Big Ben's career. Because in order to have Big Ben play at an elite level, you have to think that the Pittsburgh Steelers would have addressed this offensive line, or they feel good about where they are, better about where they were last year, and draft a running back in a position where we all thought they could need a significant upgrade. Still Chase Claypool, still Juju Smith-Schuster, still Big Ben back there, and when he's protected, he was fine. He's not the Big Ben of old, but he is fine if he's protected as a quarterback and he's complemented with a run game. And then defensively, we all know what the Pittsburgh Steelers was last year and are going to be this year. Good, top, elite. That's where they are. That's where they hang out. So I'm not concerned about the Pittsburgh Steelers as far as improving their team, as long as within their building they feel like they address this offensive line. Because as far as skill position, quarterback, and the guys on defense, the Pittsburgh Steelers right there with everybody else in their division.
I agree. I think they addressed so many of the things they needed. Their offensive line stunk. So when we say that they have to replace a bunch of those guys, they were terrible on the offensive line last year. It's hard to imagine they're going to get worse from there. They also took Najee Harris. I don't know a single person who doesn't think he has a chance to be a superstar as an NFL playmaker. And if you're looking at players, they're getting Devin Bush back. They basically played last season without him. I know that's not an addition from outside the organization, but he didn't play most of last year, and he's going to come back healthy. I think they have improved. I'm looking at my skeptic over here, Mike
This is what I'm waiting
who looks
for.
unmoved.
I'm absolutely unmoved, because that's not what the facts say. When we traded for Brett Favre, he said one thing: get me a pass-protecting running back. Najee Harris is going to be a superstar. I agree with you, Greeny, but if he cannot pass protect early, they lost the quarterback of the offensive line in Pouncey. And I'm just telling you, at 39 years old, for a guy that's made over $200 million, who was 28th in the NFL a year ago in yards per pass, the field's going to get shorter, his clock's going to get quicker, and the confluence of 3 new offensive linemen. Guys, I know how hard it is to replace one offensive lineman, let alone 3, and I hope Najee Harris knows protection's cold from day one. But if he doesn't, it's going to be a bad mix for Pittsburgh, and I think Ben's going to struggle.
I'm with you, Greeny. I think they're among the least improved teams, but I would say the Saints are worse as far as improvement. I don't know. I understand the offensive line issues. Najee Harris, how do you not get excited? I understand you need the O-line to be competent and in position and clear holes for this kid, but he's so dynamic. He's the reason you're excited. I trust Mike Tomlin. I trust that no matter what is happening behind the scenes, he's going to get his team to at least be competitive. I know they tailed off last year, but I think Big Ben will be a little bit better too.
One other X factor in the AFC North: Baltimore, now Cleveland, and Cincinnati have good young quarterbacks.
Yes.
And Cleveland and Baltimore will be really good for all those years. And I think Mike Tomlin's great, taking nothing away from him. But they have 3 real competitors that for years, Greeny, they didn't have.
That's fair. But and I'm not suggesting they're going to be in good shape for the next 10 years. But right now, they have a quarterback who knows how to win. They have the offensive rookie of the year, write it down, in Najee Harris. The offensive line can't get any worse. Go ahead. Yeah.
What, Mike T? What is Big Ben right now to you?
Oh, don't ask me that.
Where's Big?
It's over. It's over. You're paying a player for what he's done, Marcus, not what he's going to do. And he was a great player, an all-time great, but it is over. He is not going to play as well as he had. He's not nearly as comfortable as he used to be. He gets rid of the ball way too fast. And until he knows that he has solidified protection, I don't think he's going to be nearly what he once was.
Marcus, final word. What will Big Ben be this year? 39 years old.
Big Ben will be upper echelon of his own division. Book it. Trust me, we won't leave this season saying Big Ben is the fourth best quarterback in his division. I promise you that.
And the Steelers are already talking about how it might not be his last season. So we will wait and see. Again, the Steelers and Cowboys will open it tomorrow night. These are two perennial, fascinating legacy franchises, and we'll see where they wind up being. Meanwhile, if you think you're having a bad day, just thank goodness you're not in Indianapolis, because the news went from bad to worse for the Colts yesterday. They found out their all-pro guard, Quentin Nelson, who legitimately is one of the 5 or 6 best players in the National Football League, suffered the same foot injury as quarterback Carson Wentz. He's going to be out the same 5 to 12 weeks. Like Wentz, Nelson will need surgery on the injured foot. Now, you might say to yourself, how big a deal is a guard? The answer is a very big deal when it's this guard. He is first-team All-Pro all 3 of his seasons in the NFL. He is a genuine star player at the position. So if you sit back, Marcus, and you look at what's happened with their quarterback and what's happened with their best offensive lineman, and legitimately probably their best player, how would you describe the situation in Indy right now?
It's catastrophic, G, and I'm scared, okay? I feel terrible for where the Colts are right now, man. And listen, this is built on optimism that Carson Wentz was going to be better, right? This was built on the fact that the time on job, the time on the field, the recreation of him and Frank Reich's energy and synergy trying to get ready for a season was supposed to bring us into a season where Carson Wentz reemerges and the Indianapolis Colts are legit Super Bowl contenders, and now you lose him. So not only we don't know how many weeks, but we know a lot of preparation is going to be lost for Carson Wentz, who's coming off a bad season. Might I remind people, Carson Wentz wasn't traded to the Indianapolis Colts because he balled out of his mind and it was a blockbuster trade that needed to be made. He was traded because we thought the coach would resurrect his career and what he was doing. Now we deal with another injury, and the injury tag is getting attached to that. And then you lose Quentin Nelson. I don't know how long Q is out, but let me tell everybody this, G. One, the most important position group on the field is the offensive line. 2, the most important offensive lineman for the Indianapolis Colts is Quentin Nelson. Not only in the run game, but protection up the middle for a quarterback who's been injured quite a bit. This catastrophic for me in Indy. I hope both of these guys are back before the regular season. I
want to make it as clear as I can. You rarely attach the word superstar to an offensive lineman, but if there's anyone in the league to whom it applies, it is that guy. But I want to show you something because someone chimed in on this, not necessarily this directly.